In this video, I'm going to show you how to land a full-time job in the video production industry, or at least take the steps to get your foot in the door to reach that goal. While this channel is my hobby, I do have a full-time job in the video production field. If you haven't been able to tell, and I've hinted it in the past videos, I work for the Seattle Seahawks, and I work within the video production team at the Seahawks, creating content all around the organization. And to celebrate 8 years, 8 seasons working with the team and working within this video production field professionally, I'm going to share 8 things that I've learned along the way that can hopefully help you break into this field or this industry. I'm making this video because I feel fortunate on where I am right now in my life. And I want to help others break into this field because ultimately that is what I'm passionate about. You might wonder why you should listen to me or what qualifies me to talk about this. I'm not an expert and you don't have to take my advice, but I can promise you I've learned a ton along these 8 years working with the Seahawks and also working freelance gigs here and there and just being around. And what's nice about this field is I'm still learning every day, and that's something that is very beautiful about this industry, is that you never stop learning. But one thing before I get into these 8 things is hit me with questions. My hope is that I can help you. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. DM me on my Instagram, on my Twitter, email me. It's all there, and I'm here to answer any questions that might arise from this video. Like I said, this is my passion, teaching people that are younger than me how to get into this. And as always, don't forget to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Your support means more than I can ever explain, and this community is growing, and I want you guys to be a part of it with me. So 8 qualities you need. Let's get started with number 1. Adapt to situations. Flexibility is key in this industry. There are many times when things change. A shot, a location, a script changes. So many things change. You might have less time with a talent, and you need to be able to adjust on the fly and get the things you need to move on to the next scene. Being able to adapt to these situations is crucial. It's not something I think is learned over time, but I think it's more something that is accepted over time. And what I mean by that is, it's not something you learn because it's always there. It's something you eventually just have to accept. And me in my early years, I always pushed it off and never got to the point of accepting it. And that's where I'm at now, the point that I can accept when these things happen and maneuver and pivot my gears to whatever the change may be. You ultimately just need to embrace whatever situation you end up finding yourself in. The next is accepting the process. This field is a lengthy process in every aspect you do. If you do from A to Z, from the scripting to the producing to the directing to the shooting, if you just do the shooting, it's a lengthy process no matter what your role is. Expect it to take time. Quality comes from this art, and if you spend time with this art and you spend time mastering pieces of this art, you'll see it in the quality of stuff. And I preach quality over quantity. It's something I've preached for years with this channel. It's something I preach for years within my full-time job whenever I put my stamp on any sort of video or any sort of graphic. And it comes down to this: accepting the time-consuming nature of this process is just ultimately a non-negotiable. Next up is experiment, and this is something I preach. Every individual has a unique style, and finding it takes time. It takes a lot of trial and it takes a lot of error, and that's ultimately how you find what your style is, by experimenting over time and seeing what sticks and what doesn't. Experimenting ultimately comes from those passion projects, those projects that are done outside your 9 to 5 or outside what your normal job duty is. Sometimes that crazy idea strikes your mind at 2 a.m. and you need to write it down just so you can massage it in the morning and ultimately find a way that you're able to put it together. And then, as simple as it sounds, when you have those ideas and you reel them in and you make them doable, it sounds cliche and it's a point I get into later, but you just have to do it. That is the hardest part. Remove the intimidation factor. Set aside the what if I fail. Set aside the what if this doesn't work, or what are people gonna think of me when I put this out or I put this together, and just act on it and make something. It can be something that is just for you. It doesn't have to be for anyone else's eyes but yours. It's the act of practicing and experimenting. Next up is follow your passions, and it sounds so cliche, but it truly brings me a lot of happiness when you see people's passions come through in their work. An example is I created this YouTube when I became more of a manager in my 9-to-5 day job. And the reason I created this YouTube channel ultimately was to continue to practice all of the steps in the filmmaking process while I was doing something completely different in my 9-to-5. As I'm managing in my 9-to-5 and dealing with approvals and reviews and just dealing with all of those things and making sure videos get to the point they need to go to get to approved, I was able to take a lot of the stuff I did early on and move it into my personal channel. That being the producing, the directing, the shooting, the scripting, the writing, the audio, the video, all of those things I was able to move onto this channel. And it became a way of basically sharpening my tools. It became a sense of practice, and it became something where I was always practicing this art. I was always practicing what goes into the process. So if I ever was thrown back into the position, or I ever have something else that I need to do freelance or something, I still have these tools at my disposal. And ultimately, these passion projects help me in my day job. It helped me become a better manager. It helped me understand things that editors are feeling or cinematographers are feeling. I was able to notice that because I was going through the process on my own, and ultimately it gives me a sense of a little piece of what everyone does, so it's ultimately relatable. So it's just an example of how my passion project was able to help me in my personal life, but also help me in my professional work life. Keep learning. This point builds off the previous one a little bit. You'll never be an expert. No matter how many years, months, days, hours, minutes you put into this field, you're never gonna be an expert, and there's always gonna be more you can learn. Look at the rise of Instagram and the rise of social media over the years. Editors at a younger age are becoming more and more talented when it comes to editing altogether and ultimately animating altogether. It's something that editors now are way better than I ever was at their age, and I think that has something to do with, yes, a little bit technology and the rise of technology within these softwares, but also the fact that you can learn how to do so many things at the typing of a finger. YouTube and the internet is a platform, an encyclopedia, an endless supply of knowledge on how to master a field. And instead of being envious of how good the younger generation is in this field, take it as a learning lesson. Ask questions, move the envy aside, and ultimately learn from it. The internet is a treasure trove of information and tutorials. Just please use it to your advantage. It's the one thing that I've been able to do over the years that has kept me going and kept me trying new things, is that I've learned that the internet and the computer is an unlimited supply of knowledge. Next thing is kind of, I feel, goes into any sort of field of a job, but it's have grace. You don't know what an individual is going through on the other side of work. You don't know what an individual is going through in their home life. At the end of the day, have grace for others. You don't know what someone is going through, and that's something that takes time to learn, because you feel what you're doing and the time you're doing it is the most important thing in the world. But sometimes you have to step away and see that there's a human behind the product, and ultimately just realize that it is a human, and almost put yourself in their shoes and see how you'd want to feel. And then a final point that kind of plays with this is, if you have a compliment for someone, say it. A compliment for a person can go such a long way, especially in a field that there's so much creative critique. When you have a compliment for someone, just say it. Like, it's that simple. Just give out compliments when compliments are due. The second to last one is accept feedback. Creative feedback can be some of the most important things, but also challenging things to receive. You have to move away from the fact that it is not an attack at your creativity or your work ethic or any of those things. It's a way of getting your project from point A to point Z in as little revisions and as little tension as possible. I think of it as like driving an autonomous car. Let's say like a lot of the electric cars right now have these self-driving modes, and they're not fully self-driving because every few minutes you have to touch the wheel, give it pressure to show that you're still engaged, you're still there, you're alive, and you're aware. And I think of that as the type of reviewer you want to be. You're not there to run the car. You're not there to drive the car. You're there to keep it in check. You're there to keep it going. You're there to get you from point A to point Z. That's my analogy on the kind of reviewer, at least I try to be, in the type of reviewer that I think makes a good reviewer in the creative field. And I think one of the most daunting things about creative feedback is that it feels like it is a punch in your gut as a creative. And it's not. Last up is my favorite. Just put your head down and go. The key is action. It's literally the doing of it. Build momentum and take the first step. At the end of the day, you just need to start. There's so many ideas rattling around in your head, so many ideas out on paper. The hardest part is to just start. It's a YouTube channel, a documentary, a narrative, a short film, a spec ad commercial. Just start it. It doesn't even need to go out into the world. It can be just for your own eyes, just so you have the ability to know you can start something and you can finish something. It might not, whatever it is, end up exactly how you wanted it to end up. You just kind of have to roll with the punches and learn what works for you. And that's sort of the beauty of film, in my opinion, is you can have everything planned out to a T, and some things go planned like that. But so many times you're moved in so many different directions where I think multitasking and being able to pivot, one of my things I talked about earlier, is so important to this whole thing. I promise you, if you accept the process and you accept just going, putting your head down and going and just ultimately starting, even if it wasn't what you originally thought it was going to be, you're going to be proud of yourself and you're going to be proud of the process you put yourself through. My advice to anyone getting started is, if you have an idea, write it out, make it digestible, and just make something. That is 8 keys that I've learned along my 8 years working full-time professionally in the world of video and sports ultimately. And then a few things here and there, starting a YouTube channel, some freelance stuff here and there, some short films, some documentary stuff. I've kind of put it all together and come up with these 8 things that I think help any sort of creator. Leave a comment down below what your next project is gonna be. But as always, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button so you do not miss an upload. We're nearing 5K subscribers, which is absolutely crazy, and I love watching this community grow. I love answering questions, and I'm truly passionate about this stuff. But hey, all I can say is go out and create. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.